The Mimic is the main antagonist in the FNAF securitybreachruin DLC, but what exactly is the Mimic? In today's video, we'll be going through what the Mimic is, what its backstory is, and what could it possibly hold in the future of FNAF. So let's start off with what is the Mimic. The Mimic is an endoskeleton designed to copy everything it sees. It also has the ability to learn over time. But one thing that makes it different from other endoskeletons is that it's able to think independently. It's got a far more advanced AI than anything else in FNAF. But how was it made? The Mimic was made by a man named Edwin Murray for his son, David. Originally, the Mimic was not meant for any evil, but unfortunately, when Edwin's son David dies in a tragic car accident, Edwin thinks the Mimic reminds him of David too much and destroys the Mimic. But because it's FNAF and nothing can ever go right in this game, the Mimic somehow survives, and it learned violence. So Edwin therefore leaves the factory with the Mimic still inside, and Fazbear Entertainment come along because Edwin still worked for Fazbear Entertainment. They come along and wonder where's the animatronics that Edwin's supposed to be building for them. So what Fazbear Entertainment do is they get a team and they send them into the warehouse, and they obviously all die to the hands of the Mimic. One method the Mimic uses to ambush the factory workers is by hiding in costumes, as we saw in the Scooper ending of the Ruin DLC. During the construction of the Mega Pizzaplex, the Mimic and the Glamour animatronics get sent to the Pizzaplex. Underneath the Pizzaplex is obviously the FNAF 6 Pizzeria Sim location. Fazbear Entertainment wanted to turn that into a museum. So Fazbear Entertainment go ahead and hire a team of workers to help them turn the place into a museum. And they also decide to send some animatronics down there to help them clean up. And one of those animatronics is obviously the Mimic. One of the workers down there tries to program the Mimic to take apart some of the animatronics, because there's a lot of animatronic parts down there, and being an animatronic is going to be a lot easier because they're a lot stronger than humans. At first, the Mimic works, but once it runs out of robots to take apart, it then turns onto the humans. The Mimic was never programmed to stop ripping apart robot parts, and because it can't really tell the difference between humans and robots, it then went ahead and took apart the limbs of many factory workers downstairs in the basement. After the incident, Fazbear Entertainment decided it's unsafe to be down there and completely seal off the pizza place. A bonus story about the Mimic is about a group of teenagers at the Pizzaplex who find a ventilation system that leads directly down to the pizza place underneath. Now, because the Mimic was down there, because the pizza place was still sealed off, they all died to the hands of the Mimic once again. In various different ways, the Mimic goes around one by one killing them. One example of this is again hiding in costumes like we see in the Scooper ending of Ruin. One big detail in the story is that the group of teenagers find a radio signal that is apparently the Mimic pretending to be someone else. The Mimic then tricks them and lures them into a room and obviously kills some of them. This is obviously very similar to what we see in Ruin, with the Mimic pretending to be Gregory and luring Cassie into the Pizzaplex to set it free. Now that is it for the Mimic in the books. Unfortunately for me though, the epilogues in the books are still unfinished, so I will probably have to make another video on this in the future, going over more details about the Mimic. But that's not it just yet for this video. There's still the virus we need to talk about. Obviously in the game lore, that is counted as glitchtrap, but for some reason people go crazy for parallels these days, so I guess you could say it is glitchtrap, which kind of annoys me because I still want williamafton to be around, but FNAF is FNAF. Basically in the stories, the virus is the Mimic programming, which was installed in a giant tree kind of thing in the center of the Pizzaplex. The virus has full control over the Pizzaplex, and some of the things it could do is communicate with the animatronics, change their personality, controls them. It's quite difficult to wrap your head around, but if you think about it this way, the Mimic endoskeleton is its own character, but the virus is the same programming used to make the endoskeleton. So, in essence, the virus is an extension of the Mimic endoskeleton. And the true reason why the Mimic is associated with Williamafton? Well, if you take a look at Help Wanted, a certain chip was scanned into the game. This chip belonged to Scraptrap, which had William's body inside of it, and it contained the memories, the story, the agony, every little detail about William Afton was scanned into the game. So then, who would the mimic? He'd be mimicking none other than a little bunny rabbit friend, William Afton. Remember, this is all just theories, none of it is factual, but is the more likely thing that's happening in FNAF at the moment. Now, in Security Breach, the canon ending for this all to be happening is Princess Quest. There's literally too much evidence for it to not be Princess Quest. For example, in Ruin, you go around finding little collectibles of Gregory's drawing of each of the endings. The only one that you don't find is the Princess Quest ending. This is Steelwool's way of showing that the Princess Quest ending is the canon ending. You also see in Vanny's hideout the Princess Quest 3 machine with the sword stabbed into it, indicating the glitchtrap has been defeated or some more. There's obviously more than that, but those are the basic few pieces of evidence that we have for Princess Quest being canon. So for everyone who says burntrap ending is canon, let me say this: burntrap never happened. Burntrap never happened because Gregory freed Vanessa. It would have happened if Gregory never played Princess Quest 3 and defeated Glitchtrap. The virus was making Vanny turn the mimic endoskeleton into Burntrap. So Burntrap ending would have only happened if Gregory had never played Princess Quest 3. As I said earlier, the mimic is mimicking Afton, which is why he wanted to become a Spring Bonnie, because he's mimicking Afton. But that never happened anyway, so none of that matters. So what happens after the Princess Quest ending, because the mimic is still down there? Well, most likely, Vanessa and Gregory worked together to seal up the mimic, because Vanessa knew all about the mimic thanks to her experiences as Vanny. If you go down to the mimic area in Ruin, you'll see there's a backpack with Gregory's name tag on it, which confirms that he has been down there at some point. So how did the mimic get a Glamrock Freddy walkie-talkie, specifically a Glamrock Freddy walkie-talkie? Well, we know that Gregory and Glamrock Freddy are good friends, so it's most likely that Gregory dropped his walkie-talkie when sealing up the mimic, and it somehow ended up in the mimic's possession. It's kind of ironic as well, because the mimic wants to be Afton so badly. Afton got sealed in the room for 30 years, now the mimic was sealed in the room for however long. Now, what could happen in the future of FNAF regarding the mimic? Well, personally, I could see a Security Breach 2 or another DLC happening in FNAF, or maybe we'll get some more clarification in Helpwanted 2. I can definitely see the mimic going after Gregory and Cassie, escaping the Pizzaplex. So that's the story of the mimic and everything you need to know about it. And now that we're here, I want to take a liberty of correcting a few of my theories that I made in my previous FNAF Ruin video. For one, let's talk about nodetrap, as I mistakenly called him. His name is the mxes or mxes. I know I did put that in my previous video, but I still like the name nodetrap better. But his official name is either the entity or mxes. This thing is a security system developed by Vanessa and or Gregory to stop the mimic escaping and stop it from luring people to the Pizzaplex and helping it to escape. So throughout the entirety of Ruin, this thing is practically the only good guy we have. Next, the Candy Cadet story. Put simply, it's not about Clara Afton and Gregory, it's about Vanessa and Gregory sealing up the mimic. That's it for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed this short little video on the mimic. I do want to let slip that I am working on something big for Ruin, but you'll have to wait for that because it will take quite a while for me to complete, edit and animate. But thank you everyone for watching. You can join my Discord server, link is in the description. Make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.